Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today, we've got the amazing Harry with us. Hi, Harry, how are you?
Well, I'm okay, thank you.
Thanks
Pleasure.
so much for coming along today to share your story, your views, and part of the music industry with us. And do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm one of a team of five who work with Rock the Joint magazine. Although we're based here in the UK, we have we represent artists all over the world.
Yeah.
All of us worked for other music magazines previously, but during lockdown, we kind of got together and decided we can do our own thing. Um, and we've built up from nothing at all to we have around about just over 1,000 readers a day now on average. So we're doing okay. We're doing not
Well,
so bad.
well done to you, and it's amazing work that you're doing. So tell us a little bit more about how long you've been doing music, and how did you get into the music industry in the first place?
Well, as I say, we all of us have different backgrounds connected into music, I suppose. Although we have other skills as well, and we all have other jobs
Yeah.
alongside the magazine. Um, I go back to my dad, who was he played the organ and in church and stuff like that. So I was sort of trained on the piano quite early on, and like so many people in my era, I was dashing out to buy the next vinyl record. And yes, I am that old, so I go back to the era pre-streaming and the internet and things like that,
Yeah.
where you went out and saw great little bands live in your local clubs and things, and bought the vinyls and caught the acts and things like that. And then started picking up into the couple of music magazines that I worked for as a music journalist, and uh, became disillusioned with a lot of what I was seeing.
Sounds-
And we decided we could do our own thing more ethically clean, for want of a better word, I think. We not that it really impacts into the magazine as such, but we're all Christians, which had that sort of background, and we were watching too much going on that perhaps we disapproved of. So thought, tell you what, I think we can do our own thing here.
Yeah, let's make a positive change. I love that, Harry. That's really, really inspirational, actually. I think the music industry is a great place to be. There's a lot of things that are not quite right. And you say, well, this is good, but it's not quite right. And we need to make it better. So how did you feel that you could make that positive change in the industry? How did that happen?
Well, I think that I'm gonna if we look at the music industry, the music business as such,
Yeah.
I think that the music business is under attack. Really, it's under attack from a a key number of elements that are undermining people's ability to simply make an income.
Yeah.
First of all, we have a change of thinking in society generally that's not respecting the arts as it should.
Right.
Whereas a few years ago, people were enjoying, if you wanted to study dance or something at university, or you wanted to go and people would encourage it, they'd support it.
Yeah.
Now, when I want to put my son through drumming lessons or whatever, it's, but you're paying what? You're paying for drumming lessons? Yes, I am. He's my son. I'm paying for drumming lessons. Yes. Shouldn't he have a maths tutor? Why have you bought him a drum kit for Christmas? Shouldn't we be buying him a science kit?
Yeah.
Uh, you want to go and study music at university, do you?
Pay the bill.
Are you wanting to teach it? Do you want to be a music teacher? Are you going to go into teaching? What about maths? What about you look at how
Yeah.
the interest in taking English literature at A level has dwindled.
Yes.
Um, Look at how people picking up on dance and music has declined and declined. And yet, this is a country, the UK I'm talking about now, not America, but America probably also. The
Yeah.
UK is famous
For
for
creativity.
creativity from Shakespeare and Marlowe, Jane Austen and Dickens. We've produced some of the world's greatest writers musically, the
Yeah.
Beatles, the Stones, everybody from in the 60s, the British invasion, the new wave of British heavy metal, Iron Maiden, and all these great bands and musicians that have generated so much income for this country, and yet it's looked down upon.
Yeah.
So there's the first issue.
Yeah.
The second one is that we have a market that has started to, a younger market now, that has started to look for music for free. It's got used to being able to streaming it for free, and therefore doesn't want to pay for it.
Right. And that's
sorry, Saskia, over to you. You say.
Struggle, isn't it, for artists? Because if they're not paying for the music they listen to, then creators can't create the music in the first place. So there's
Correct.
a there, isn't there?
You see, I wouldn't see. My argument is this: I can't go into a hairdresser or a restaurant,
get a free haircut,
eat a meal, and then have the restaurateur say to me, "Oh, I hope you enjoyed the meal, sir. Would you like to donate something?"
Yes.
Well, do you know what? I wasn't that impressed with it. Here, I'll give you £1.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I hope you enjoyed your haircut. We've styled it really nicely for you, given you a lovely wash and blow dry and everything like that. Would you care to give us something towards it? Well, do you know what? I'm not that impressed. Have 50p.
Right.
And yet you've got musicians having to say, look, you're streaming my music for free. You're watching me on YouTube for free or whatever have you. Here's my new album. If you like it, would you like to donate something? Wow. You've lost to start with, because nobody's going to donate if they're getting it for free.
Yeah. It's not sustainable, is it? And this is the part of the problem we've got in the creative sector, I think, is that that lack of stability and sustainment that a lot of artists struggle with, especially when they're up and coming artists.
Oh, yes. You've got Spotify and the big giants paying, I think it's 0.002 pence for a stream. Now, if you're, I don't know, Kiss with I Was Made for Loving You and you've just had 1 billion streams, that's okay. But if you're Kiss and getting 1 billion streams, you don't necessarily need that revenue anyway. You're already doing fine. But if you're some little independent artist trying to set up and you've managed through hook and by crook to get yourself 3,000 streams,
you're doing well.
Well, work it out. You're getting pennies.
You get like £1, aren't you? Not
you're
even
getting like £1. Yeah, you're getting £1.
Yeah.
And nobody can live on that, which means that the artists are then forced into, which is the third strand of what I see the attack on the industry as. The third strand is the closing of smaller venues. Because if you're an artist and you can't make a musician and you can't make your living on the streaming of music, you're then forced into making your living on the live stage. Yeah. Well, that's great. If you're Taylor Swift and Oasis selling out stadiums and people go, well, look at that, the music industry is doing better than it ever was. They're just packing out stadiums all over. Yes, she is. Taylor Swift is, yes. But again, if you're a small independent artist trying to sell your own ticket and the local club and venue has struggled post-pandemic and closed down, then you've lost the second strand of your income.
And that's a massive problem, isn't it, Harry? So how can we support the talent pipeline in ensuring that underrepresented and especially artists from disadvantaged and underrepresented communities can thrive in a music industry that doesn't want to pay you, that doesn't give you money for streaming, that even if you're paying for recording costs, what's going on? How can we make this a better place for everybody? What are some of the solutions that you could bring to the table?
Yeah, right. Well, what a good question. I mean, like yourself, you talk obviously to a lot of artists. We talk to a lot of artists, and you see, I'll just note one thing, that we, for example, we do not charge artists for reviews. Okay, so we have never, ever. I think it is ethically wrong to charge an artist for reviewing and promoting their work. Okay. Yes. And yet, how often are we getting let's just say Miss Susan. Miss Susan sends us. I've just invented somebody. It's not a real person. Okay. So
Yeah.
Miss Susan sends us her music, and she says, "Dear Rock the Joint magazine, please listen to my music. I'd love it if you could review it." And we go, "Yeah, sure, of course we'll review it, Susan." And she goes, "How much do I need to pay you?" And we go, "Whoa, hang on a minute. How much? We don't charge for reviews." "Oh, what, you mean other people are charging you for them?"
Yes.
Well, I know it goes on. I used to work, as I said, for the back there. I know it goes on. This is one of the things I didn't like. Yes, I've been asked amount X, Y, Z. We have to, that sort of practice. And so we're trying to do our own bit on this. Reviews are a whole topic of conversation themselves, but you've got to get to the nut and bolt of it. You've got to get back into schools again. You've got to start. You see, oh goodness me, I think that football teams and places like that have schools of excellence, right, where they support and they take out the creme de la creme of footballers and whatever have you. They put them through their education, they train them. A lot of them will make it, and some of them won't, but they'll have had centres of excellence connected to the football teams, right? I think we need something similar in music and theatre, where you have people like, okay, let's name a couple: the Royal Shakespeare Company, leading artists and musicians who and stalwarts of our industry like Spotify. Okay, let's see them put something back into this. Let's get people like the National Theatre. Let's get a big dance company or whatever have you, who are, when your child is showing talent, will support, will put them into schools of excellence where they are supported in their artistry, but also given their basic sound education as well. And we treat the arts in a similar way to the way that we treat sport, where we're valuing what people are bringing, even at a young age, to the table. And I think that is one thing that can be done. And we need more backing, I'm afraid, from the politicians as well, to say, actually, the arts are bringing a lot to this country. Let's put something back and let's support these smaller venues and things like that, in the same way that we're supporting other areas which we think gets backing.
I think that's crucial, Harry, and thank you for bringing that up. I think, arts and culture has been a massive part of this country. Cultural heritage, storytelling, authenticity, being different and pushing those boundaries. We've always been an open country, but I think slowly but surely we are losing our identity on a global stage, and this is part of the problem is, like you said, in sports, people get invested, they get supported, they get infrastructures in place that can support talent. But the music industry and the entertainment industry doesn't really have that. So I think
it doesn't. It doesn't. And if my son was 7 and he was shining in a local football club or something like that, just playing locally, you'd have somebody like Newcastle United or whatever have you sniffing around. He'd be taken out. He'd be put in their youth academy. He'd be supported and the family would be supported. His education would be supported, and he'd be pushed through. If my son is shining on the guitar, or he's particularly good at singing or whatever have you, he just might get into a choral school, I suppose. But if we're talking about just general sort of talent and ability, or my daughter is a superb singer and dancer, where are the Royal Shakespeare? Where's the Royal Shakespeare Company? Where's the National Theatre? Where's the government saying, do you know what? She deserves a hell of a good chance as well. She's really talented.
Let's
support her.
That resonates with my own personal story, actually, because when I was very young, I was born to two deaf parents. I couldn't really communicate very well. I wasn't very educational, but I went to my first school and my music teacher was absolutely amazing. And she used to help me with singing. And every time I used to go, we used to have assemblies in the morning where we'd sing, a whole group of us together. And we'd do a lot of singing and we'd do a lot of creativity. And one of my music teachers said, Saskia, you're so good at singing. And she encouraged me. She helped me. She supported me through my talented journey through music. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gone to a private school. I wouldn't have won a scholarship. I wouldn't have gone to some of these amazing places that I've been if it hadn't been for that woman, because I was never very good at academia. And I think this is the struggle that some of the children have at schools today is not everyone's academic. What are we doing with the creative section of the children that are in schools that are not great at academia, but they're great at creativity? They are
exactly. And I'm going to, can I pick up on that point as well and say, you see, we have to, there needs to actually be a discussion where people stop being scared of a 14-year-old who's a talented artist, guitar player, and painter, right? That's what he loves. That's what he loves. Give him a guitar, give him a paintbrush, he's happy, you know, but he's in trouble a lot in school because he's a bit gothy and, you know, he likes to do, you know, he looks a bit not quite the norm. He's very arty.
We're never normal.
What does the school do with him? The school bungs him on detention, tells him to get his uniform sorted out. The school then sits him down into classes. I'll choose something that I love, Shakespeare. Yes, I love Shakespeare and I love history, but the school will then put him into classes where he has to sit and learn Shakespearean sonnets. He's having to sit and learn Pythagoras' theorem and quadratic equations, which he gets wrong, gets frustrated in, and then gets angry, more angry, and then he gets into trouble, then he gets suspended, then he gets put out.
Sad. It's really sad. And
that's what happens. Whereas that kid, if he'd have been supported, would have gone on, done, and who knows what he could have achieved, rather than being booted out by a system that rejects what he's talented in and is telling him he needs to be good at something that he's not and never going to be. Yeah. I passed maths just about long ago at a grade C, but hand on heart, I have never in my entire life since walking out of that classroom thought, do you know what? I need Pythagoras' theorem and I need it right now. Or I really want to sit and do this knotty little quadratic equation. Yeah. No, never. We're turning people away from their creativity. We're excluding them. We're putting them out and we're seeing them as oddballs and freaks, when in actual fact, they're talented individuals with so much to offer.
And this is my right. I think that's a really important point you make as well, because it's damaging society, but it's also rewarding people that are great at academia, but not so great at creativity.
Correct.
And we cannot thrive as a community and change boundaries and change mindsets without that, can we?
No, and that's the rub of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been super important to me as well, Harry, because I had a musical education as a child. You know, as things have evolved, like I'm looking back now, there's not much musical education and not much support for children that are not academic. So what can we do to change that and make sure that children that are creatives are not getting left out and supported?
And you see, I mean, all sorts of things. Like when as I say, look, I'm reasonably old. When I went to school, if you'd wanted music lessons, the government paid for them. Yeah? You could have gone in and you would have got it.
Yeah.
Now, if you need help and support with your maths or whatever have you, and it sounds like I'm attacking maths. Of course, maths is important to society. Of course it is. But I'm sitting here with my hat on here supporting the arts, yeah? But they'll put in the extra that it's paid for, you know? They'll give the SAT support when the children are 10 or whatever have you, and promote the English and the extra tuition, and they'll get extra classes and extra one-to-one. It's all paid for.
Yeah.
And yet, if you're talented or whatever have you, nobody's saying if you want guitar lessons now, the parents have to pay for it.
Right.
You know, you're good at the drums. Well, I'm afraid, you know, there is a drum teacher. That'll cost you amount X. Yeah. Well, a lot of children come from poor families where if you're struggling on the breadline and whatever have you, that extra £8 a week or whatever have you for the drum lesson is something that's an expendable and probably wouldn't be given that higher priority. And it's sad. And we need it's a change of attitude, really, I think, to what we value as a society.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also it's about understanding that we're not all the same. We all have our own special, unique talents and abilities that we bring to the table. And some of those people are not being served and represented. And I think this is part of the problem with that divide that we have with the rich and the poor. because certain people can access a creative industry where others can't, but yet the best talent comes from those underrepresented and disadvantaged communities. That's right, isn't
And
it?
you've just reminded me of something. Funnily enough, I was sitting as you do, in an Italian restaurant a couple of weeks ago, yeah? And the waitress was chatting to my wife and son and I at the table. And we said, she must have been about 19, maybe 20, you know. And we said, so what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm having to take my GCSE English again. And I said, oh, really? No, was it English or it was one or the other? She said, I've now failed it 4 times. And she said, I've got to take it again. Yeah. And I said, you've got to take it again. And she said, yeah, you have to now. You have to. If you've not got it, you have to take them again and again and again. Yeah. She said, I've actually got worse at it, not better. And I said, but this is ridiculous. And she said, well, yeah, she said, in actual fact, she said, I'm wanting to go to study history at university. Yeah. And she said, I love classical studies in the ancient world. But she said, I can't get in because it was maths, I think, because I don't have the GCSE maths. And I said, right, okay. But she said, I've got like whatever the levels are now, a 9 or something. She said, I've got a 9 in history. And she said, I took the classics as an extra and I got an 8 in that. So she said, I've got my A levels and that. But she said, I still haven't been able to pass the maths, so I can't go. Now, come on, folks.
No, I felt the same struggle when I was younger as well, because I think, you know, I was born in the 80s, but that was the same thing. Like, if you haven't got maths, English, I think it was something else. There was maths, English, and another subject. If you haven't got those 3 subjects, you can't move on to the next step.
You can't move on, no.
A lot of people are trapped in that cycle, and then they can't go to uni, and then they can't get an education, and they can't do what they want to do, which I think is very frustrating, because we need to change that system. It's broken. It doesn't work.
Correct. It doesn't. But then you see, you have a debate like this, and somebody will say, oh, if a politician dares to say it, you know, let's use a random Mr. Smith politician. If Mr. Smith, the politician or the leader, or whatever, says it, then the newspapers the next day go, Mr. Smith says end maths in schools. You know? No, he hasn't said that at all. That's not been said. I'm not sitting here saying get rid of maths. Of course I'm not. It'd be a ridiculous, stupid statement to make. I'm just saying value individuals for what they can bring to the table and enable every individual to push their own strengths without holding them back. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't teach Shakespeare in schools. I'm not saying don't teach maths in schools. Of course I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's what it becomes. And the dialogue gets changed. So we end up stuck in the same situation and can never move forward.
I think you're right. And I think some of it is about putting that emphasis on certain subjects, because I was always told when I was younger, music is not going to pay the bills. You want to do music, great, but that's a hobby. That's a thing. That's sport. You do that on the side. That's a creative subject. So that's not going to pay the bills, and you're not going to make it. You're not going to be that person. You've got to be extremely lucky. And that's not true. And I think this is part of the problem that we have, is there's a stereotype when it comes to music and creative arts, whether it be drama, arts, or music, that they don't pay the bills. But Correct. They pay the bills if you sustain it and you believe in it and you follow through and persevere. It doesn't mean it's going to pay the bills straight away. You know, and there's a lot of people that are out there that are doing something because they love it and they're supposed to do that, but they're struggling because they're not getting financed, they're not getting the support, and then they're often misunderstood. How can we make that a better place for everybody, especially the next generation? Because it's really, really important.
Yeah. And as I say, I think you see your kid who is talented, as I say, kicking a ball.
Yeah.
People will say to him, you've got to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
But my God, he's a good footballer. And you have powerful individuals now, the Premier League or whatever have you in football, who've got all their own academies and things like that. Mm-hmm. And will do that support role. And it's producing, of course, the excellence through it. Wow. And although people will say to the kids, you've got to have a backup plan, they're not being told you can't make it. Yeah. Whereas the kid who's picking up the guitar in his back bedroom, as kids have done for so many decades, you know, since the Beatles or Elvis or whatever have you, you know, BB King or whoever hit the scenes, you know, and increasingly, you know, both genders are picking up the guitar. So, you know, the girl in the back room who's picking up the guitar and wants to be Susie Quattro or whatever have you, the parents will say to her, yeah, but, you know, that's never going to make a living, love. You
Right.
know, that's never going to make a living. You enjoy playing the guitar, you enjoy dancing. Do that in your own time. That's a hobby.
Right.
But somehow, as I said at the beginning, we've got to get some of the bigger players in this country, you know, EMI and all these people to say, actually, you can make a living at this. If you're talented, we will support you, and we will push for excellence in the British arts as well. So the Royal Shakespeare Company are saying, my God, this kid is only 10, but isn't he a great actor? The RSC will support you. The RSC will have you there. We've got our own, you know, come and see us every month, you know, and do classes with us and all the rest of it. You do well in your education and we will support you. We will help you, you know. Everybody goes, oh, you can't go to university to study music or theatre because you won't have a job at the end of it. You'll starve and have a massive debt. But we're the Royal Shakespeare Company. And in actual fact, we've known you since you were 10 and you've been doing bits and pieces of acting with us and whatever have you. You're part of our academy.
Yeah.
You can do your degree through us,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be acting and earning a living at the same time.
And I think
EMI or Spotify, and these people need to be looking at music artists and saying, you know, you're damn good and we are going to support you.
another important part you make is actually that development process where I think, you know, people that are seen with talent are nourished and supported. When it comes to the arts, they're really not nourished or supported because sports will nourish and support you and develop you as a player. Whereas when you're in a creative field, it doesn't matter which one it is, there is no talent pipeline, there's no support and there's no funding. So how do we make sure that the next generation of people are supported that do have a pipeline? Because a lot of it is 16 to 24s and not every into that bracket either as well, because I've been through that myself. You know, we've all got our own personal experiences and our own personal battles to deal with, but not everyone fits into those brackets that people want to assume. So how can we ensure that people are supported through that talent pipeline, but also have the access to funding, which I think is another really important part you make, is the funding issue. Because a lot of people that are really talented don't come from a great background, you know, they've been through a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and maybe their families are not all supportive. So how can we make sure those children are not left on the sidelines?
Again, a very good question. I was reading somewhere, I wish I could remember where it was. It might have been The Spectator or somebody like that, actually, who was saying how many of our musicians now who are actually doing okay come from a middle class private school background.
It surprised me.
It doesn't, and I was like, okay. And then you're reading things like Lily Allen, an artist who I really like. I love Lily Allen.
She's great.
And she's chatting about how she makes more money selling pictures of her feet
Right.
on OnlyFans.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing as well. I've seen that
than she does with her music.
Yeah, she's paid.
This is a successful performer and a very good performer.
The touring, right? She's an artist, but she's using OnlyFans to pay for the touring expenses that she's got to recoup and pay back.
Now, what is that saying about the state of our industry now?
That's terrible. It's really, really bad. And you know what? I think it's a really important topic that we've touched on today is making sure that we support people, whether they're in the creative sector or whether they're doing arts or music, whatever it is, that they are supported and they've got funding and they've also got people around them, people they can trust and people that understand how their industry works. Because at the moment, you're on your own. Do you know what I'm saying?
And it comes as well, you see, going back, what can we do? What I would like to see, I don't think we're going to see it, but what I would like to see is obviously, I mean, by the way, I love the Royal Shakespeare Company. I've been mentioning, I go to watch the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford. I'm not having a go at them at all. Okay, I love the RSC. well done. We need, because they're they're very, very good at what they do.
Yeah.
However, I would like to see that they get state funding. They get state funding from the Arts Council, as do the National Theatre, whatever have you.
Okay.
I would like to see smaller venues be able to tap in more into Arts Council funding.
Yeah.
So your local punk club, well, why not? It's just as valid as, and then your local, you, so little places where you can get a nice bite to eat in the evening or drink, and your local, and it's known locally because the local punk bands will go on there. Great, and support it and help it and give it some public money to be able to get it on its feet and moving, because without that it dies before it's ever got born.
Right, and music regenerates areas, it brings people into new areas, it supports local communities, it gives communities a chance to show their expression and be diverse and inclusive. But there's so many benefits to creativity that a lot of other industries don't bring to the table. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think we're losing something if we do not invest in the arts. And, we've always, like you said earlier, we've always been a world leader, one of the world leaders in creativity and expression and diversity. Why do we want to lose that today? When we've come, and people look.
When we are losing it. And I'm going to, because I'm aware, I don't know how long have we got, probably about 5 minutes or so left. You see, the other thing I'd like to mention is, you see, social media is both a plus, but it's also a massive minus. Yeah. I mean, we've experienced it since we've been doing this, Facebook in particular. Oh my God. But so often, we were talking about sort of disadvantage or the way that society views people. I got really annoyed. I don't normally respond on Twitter and whatever have you, but I did on this particular one. So, Ariana Grande, I love Ariana Grande. What a talented girl. I mean, she's up there. She's what a great voice, good actress as well. Great. And yet, suddenly there on social media, you've got Ariana Grande, and it's all over suddenly social media where there's a picture of her looking unwell. She looked like she needed a meal, to be honest. Next to her of a few years ago, looking really well. They're going, so what's wrong with Ariana? What's wrong with Ariana Grande? Have a look at these pics, folks. What do you think? And I couldn't resist. And I wrote back and I put, actually, it's not my damn business or yours. This is a really talented woman who, if she's having a problem at the moment with anything, I don't want to know about. And this is it's disgusting. You wouldn't do this with a male artist, for example. You wouldn't.
People don't see in the background either, do they, Harry? They only see what they see. And this is another problem with the arts, is people see what they see on social media and they think it's all great and it's all glitz and glam. We all know that's not the truth, especially when you're in that industry yourself. That's really not what it is.
It's very hard. And everything that I've been saying today, when it goes back to that first question, when you said to me, so what are you trying to achieve with the magazine? Yeah. What we are trying to achieve is we're trying to put out what we can to support artists, independent artists who are needing a bit of a push and a bit of support.
Yes.
We are trying to raise these issues in our editorials, and we're trying to, where we can, in a non-political way, I suppose, raise things and try to be an agent for change. We're very small. We're not Kerrang or whatever have you. We're a tiny magazine and doing our best and building things up. Yeah. But if enough small people start saying the same thing and pushing it, then it can only, I hope, add ripples to the water that can grow bigger.
Oh, well done. I love that as well, Harry. So if people want to find out more about the magazine, what you do, so tell us a little bit, because we've got like 5 minutes left. Tell us a little bit more about the magazine, the genres you cover, and how people can connect with you.
Or sure. I mean, you can just Google us, Rock the Joint Magazine, and we pop up. It's rockthejointmagazine.com. We cover We cover country music, rock, country rock, pop, and jazz. Really, are the areas that we cover because that's what we've got. We're a little team of five, and that's what we've got our expertise on.
Yeah.
We predominantly independent artists, but not entirely. We review material that we like. We decided with the reviews that if we review it, it means that we like it, and we're prepared to say to our readers, this is good. You should have a listen. Right?
Yeah.
And that means that artists who perhaps are not covered elsewhere, I'll name one, Nushka. What a brilliant artist Nushka is, if you look her up. Songs like Come Around and stuff like that. She is really talented and really, really good. Amy Jo, country singer.
Oh, lovely.
On the cusp of, I hope, greatness, a German lass called Larkley. Yeah. Wonderful. An Indian lad who's in India called Dr. Lincoln. He used to be a brain surgeon, but he left brain literally, truthfully, and went to music. These are wonderful artists, and I wish they would get a bigger platform. But we're there trying and promoting in whatever little way that we can. And if we do a review, we're saying, listen to it, folks. Yeah. We're not giving a 5-star review or a 4-star or a 3-star because it's so subjective.
Yes.
But we're saying, have a listen, be prepared to listen to new music, open up and check out some of these artists and help them along in life. And who knows, if we all do that, we may have a more creative industry that's successful and people earning a living in it.
I agree. That would make some massive difference. And do you know what I really love about the work you're doing, Harry, and all of your team, is you're giving people a chance, you're giving people opportunity. And I just want to say thank you ever so much because we need that. With venues closing down, the cost of living, the lack of support and creativity, people like us, we need that support. We need people like you to keep doing what you do in order for us to grow. Otherwise, we won't ever grow.
I think we're on the same side, actually, Saskia, because I think the fact just you giving up your time doing this podcast, whatever, that you do and talking to people and raising so many issues of inclusivity and diversity and all this that you do is so needed because, again, every voice can add to the whole, it's a whole picture. Last point, we're not political. We're not a political, we always say we're not a political magazine, but sometimes we will do everything we can. And we've been raising the case of an Iranian singer who was sentenced to death recently for protest songs in his homeland of Iran. And we said we're not political, but we're raising it. And we're a tiny voice. But then more voices joined in, and he's actually been freed from prison a week or so ago. So, you hope that just by
those little things make a massive difference, don't they?
Yeah. So let's hope we can all join together and some of these points, who knows, maybe will make a difference one day. Yeah.
Well, it's cut out before I say goodbye, and I just want to say thank you ever so much. I know our time's on 40 minutes, and it cuts on the freeze.
I do the same. We do the same when we interview artists. Zoom does 40 minutes, but it's been a pleasure. It's been lovely saying hello, and God bless. Look after yourself.
I'll leave all the links in the